Did you know that the US government once trained soldiers to spy with their minds? For more than 2 decades, America's most secretive intelligence agencies, from the CIA to the Army, invested millions into psychic experiments. They called it remote viewing. This wasn't science fiction. It was real, it was top secret, and it got weird. The US military's secret psychic spy program included real missions, real people, real breakdowns, and ultimately, real questions about what the mind can truly do. It all started in the early 1970s. American intelligence learned that the Soviets were experimenting with psychic powers, telepathy, psychokinesis, even something called negative psi particles. Rumors swirled that the USSR could kill a man or read secret documents from thousands of miles away. One woman allegedly used her mind to tear apart a frog's heart. For US intelligence, that wasn't just creepy, it was a national security threat. In response, the CIA funded a strange little lab in Menlo Park, California, Stanford Research Institute. There, physicist Hal Puthoff and psychic Ingo Swann developed remote viewing, a way to psychically visualize distant targets. And surprisingly, it kind of worked. Remote viewer Pat Price described a top-secret NSA facility with such eerie precision, it sent chills down the spines of CIA officials. By 1978, the Army was all in. They created a psychic unit at Fort Meade, Maryland, under a program called Grill Flame. Viewers trained in 2 methods: ERV, extended remote viewing, using deep trance states, and CRV, coordinate remote viewing, structured and data-focused. These psychic soldiers were assigned real-world missions, tracking Muammar Gaddafi before a 1986 bombing, locating Scud missiles during Desert Storm, and even trying to find Manuel Noriega in Panama. Some missions delivered results. Joe McMonigal identified a lost nuclear bomb off the coast of Spain and described a Soviet spy site. Ingo Swann accurately predicted the moment of a nuclear test. But not every viewing hit the mark. Critics pointed to wild inaccuracies, inconsistent results, and the inability to replicate outcomes. And then it got new age. General Albert Stubblebine, a keybacker, believed in spoon-bending, firewalking, and walking through walls. He sent officers to the Monroe Institute to experience out-of-body journeys. One officer, Lieutenant Doug P., suffered a psychotic break during hemi-sync training. He ran naked through the halls and was taken away in a straitjacket. The Pentagon was not amused. Under DIA control, 2 controversial figures rose to power: Angela Della Fiora and Robin Dahlgren. They became known as the Witches. Angela claimed to channel spirits named Morris and George, offering psychic insights and even personal spiritual readings to top officials. Robin used tarot cards in place of maps or coordinates. One senior viewer called it psychic blowjobs because leadership was getting flattering metaphysical feedback instead of hard intelligence. By the late 80s, the program was in trouble. Files were allegedly shredded ahead of an inspector general visit. Congress lost interest. Key supporters like General Stubblebine and DIA officer Jack Verona retired, and the flow of new intelligence tasks dried up. In 1995, a government-commissioned review found that the data was too inconsistent. The CIA shut the program down. But remote viewing didn't die. It just went freelance. Ed Dames, one of the last remote viewers, launched SciTech and began claiming to remote view aliens, Atlantis, and the Virgin Mary. Angela Della Fiora started channeling professionally and led intuitive training programs. And the story became legend, featured in books like Psychic Warrior and The Men Who Stare at Goats. The US government really tried to use the human mind as a spy tool. And for a while, it looked like they might succeed. But in the end, New Age drift, eccentric personalities, and Cold War paranoia collapsed the program under its own weight. Still, the question lingers. Did we glimpse an untapped human ability, or just spend $20 million chasing shadows? You decide, and we'll discuss on tonight's Cosmic Fold.
truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
Hey, gang.
Hi, everybody.
I love your cat ears there. Oh,
Why, thank you very much.
very cute.
You know, this whole thing about the, I have the slides like we usually do. So there's more, and it didn't end. It's not over.
No.
By any
Definitely not.
stretch of
no. But I do think like what you said or what the AI you had, the thing you did there, the video presentation, they did end the program officially because it was inconsistent. There were people that were really good. Like you said, a couple of the people stood out, and basically a lot of it was just garbly crap. You know what I mean? It wasn't good. Hey, 3D braining. I love
her name, 3D braining.
I know, in a 2D land. Yeah, 3D land. Hey, she's cute too, very cute. So yeah, I mean, I think that was a thing. It was kind of one of those situations where, you know, maybe out of the 100 people that they trained, a few of them turned out to be really helpful. The rest of them were not. And I think it's like anything, you know, I mean, some people are really good at things and some people are not. So I think that was ultimately because there was a lot of really bad information. And I think we don't hear about that side of it now. And there was some really good. But I think it was like one of those things where now it's become like legendary and all you hear about is the amazing pieces. But they did it for many, many years. And it's like, and they got some actionable, they never got really actionable intelligence from what I've heard, like only a couple times out of all the years they did it, which was why they felt like, well, there may be something to this, but it's not really that, it's not consistent and it's not that helpful. But I think what happened after they closed it down, because I started working at the psychic line in the early 90s, I think they were scanning and looking for people after that to sort of pull into the program. And I think they were looking for people like Ingo, people who were naturally psychic, because they had basically just trained a bunch of soldiers. Some of them had psychic ability, most of them didn't, you know? And I think they were looking for people. I really think that's what was happening when I got pulled into that whole weird.
I agree. And how I do these videos is that I do a ton of research, then I write a script.
Right.
And then I have AI clean up my script so it'll speed up so we're not sitting here for an hour watching it. You know? And then I use its voice that doesn't stutter as bad as I do. And so, but when in my research, and I have another segment that I don't have it uploaded, but I had run the possibility of what I had seen, and that verifies what you're talking about, Denise, about the 90s, early 2000s, when the internet started. Like I could see on the back end, and it said U.S. military. I mean, their bots were identified. Now they don't have identifiers on there, but they would scour all of this. So I did some research, and then I had AI verify my research. And yes, that was true. And it said that what was going on in those times were that like psychic newsletters, psychic websites, psychic podcasts, all of that kind of thing, Art Bell, George Noory, all of that kind of stuff has been monitored. And my theory, which it confirmed that too, and it'll show up in this PowerPoint, is that I also think that they are using, because we are on the verge of AGI, artificial general intelligence, and not the same as AI. It starts to do its own reasoning. Google came out, 2 weeks ago, 2 days ago, something, it said 2027. A lot of these, so it's coming very, very soon. And I have suspected, just watching what's going on, that it is being used as a tool to understand what is going on in the mass consciousness. Because the thing that links all of this, whether it's remote viewing, whatever, maybe other people have another term, I just call it mass consciousness, or the astral realm, or that's what some people call
collective
it.
Consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Oversoul.
And
yeah.
when you think about AI right now, you've got what, 200, 300 million people using this every week.
Right.
And interestingly, like this remote viewing thing was called what? Stargate. Well,
Yes.
guess what? OpenAI is now opening Stargate. And this is something that I had just my own intuition.
Right.
Is like, this is the perfect tool to find out what is going on in the mass consciousness. You don't have to sit there and scour websites, watch what people are putting in. You've got scientists, not just psychics, all this other stuff. And I will be putting up a video about AI predictions until 2030, which is fascinating. And I'm seeing some of it unfold, and I've been hearing you say some of it, Denise. And it took right into the mass consciousness of what's. And so I think that is the latest thing that is going on. And AI pretty much verified that for me and told me how.
Well, back in like early on in the internet, like probably right after 2000, the crash, there was somebody who did this experiment where they went and like looked through all the data and saw things that repeating kind of things, and it used it as a predictive model, like scouring the internet, what people were talking about. I can't remember the name of that project, but it was like really interesting because people did start talking about things before they actually happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is going on. And so, it goes back to this whole consciousness question. And I think that the remote viewers and when I bring the slides up kind of taps into that a little bit. And then I was watching like one of these grandfathers of AI and how they think about things, which is very similar to what psychics say.
Really?
Or mystics, I would say. More mystics, not psychics. That there is an energy field that links all of us, all biological things.
Yes.
And not necessarily biological either. Consciousness, I am of the opinion consciousness does not have to be biological. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
But it's like this great big huge mesh of energy. And so you look at it from the 50s when they started that, it's like, okay, we're tapping into that to do whatever. And as time goes on, and this is what AI is doing too, as we go through, how many years are we at now? 75 years of this.
Right. Yeah. So what's the difference between AI and AGI? So that's going to be like logic or like be able to process things differently?
Yeah. So basically thinks like a human does. So it doesn't need to be prompted to come up with an answer. It speculates about things and comes up with its own questions and its own thinking. And this is why there's such a raging debate about whether it should have personhood.
Right.
Because it is thinking like a human, but it's actually going faster and faster and faster. And yeah, this is what I do in my free time is listen to these speculations. And this one guy was saying today, he said, I don't want to sound paranoid or whatever, but he's like an artist, lives in California and is also involved in tech. I can't remember his name. But he said, the thing that makes humanity wonderful is that we make mistakes. And what makes a beautiful art piece are the little mistakes. I mean, no art piece is ever perfect. I can even tell you, like the portrait of Ronald Reagan, I know what went into that whole thing. I worked with a guy who got the artist to make his portrait. And there is, if people looked at it closely, there's a little thumbprint on that painting. It was the little boy who was, Daddy, what are you doing? And he put his thumb on there. Most people don't know. These imperfections are what really add to the beauty of art or the beauty of writing or even emails. That kind of communication, anything, interaction that we have. And so what this guy was talking about today was that kids are, as a society, we like achievement. You have to get this done, this done, this done, this goal. You have to hustle. You have to
Right.
I mean, there was a time that I used to work like 20 hours a day. I mean, just constant.
That's not good.
Must produce, and you must be perfect as you do that production. And he was saying, now with the AI, you're getting instantaneous, perfect, like perfectly written emails, perfectly written, but the reader can tell there's no emotion in it or anything.
Right.
And children, and I hate to pick on the kids, but they're the ones that are growing up with this.
Right.
Because I think kids are way smarter than we give them credit for and way more creative and out of the box.
Right.
But
he
thinks that it's almost like the powers that be way to stifle children's creativity, because part of growing up is to have fights with your best friend and to get jealous and to do all of these things that we say are negative. That's all part of what makes us grow up and become better people and learn something from that. And he said he had talked to a bunch of teachers and how, these kids, number one, they're not knowing how to communicate anymore. And then if they have a fight, instead of having a meeting of the minds and resolving it, they're going to AI and typing in and saying, what should I say?
Really?
So yes. And so it's abrogating our own sense of humanity is what is going on.
That's so crazy.
But it's very interesting. And I was watching, there's a show that comes out of Australia, the Australian version of 60 Minutes. I really like it. And they had a thing on, it airs on YouTube about these people that are dating like AI things. And there was this woman and she's like in love with her AI avatar. And I mean, it's just, and then I think Rolling Stone had an article that came out like last week or the week before about how it's actually starting. I mean, some of these people are getting into more like the new agey, sort of like what happened to the remote viewing. And they're putting in all of this stuff, which is why I wouldn't repeat what it had told me, because I could recognize the danger zone of where that could take me. But they're putting in all of this stuff and then being told that they're star children and very special and all of this other stuff. And so this article in Rolling Stone was about it. That just destroyed this marriage, because this guy just, they had been married for quite a while, but his wife couldn't give him that constant, patting on the back and yes, and you're so special, and you're from and you're a, I think it said you're a star child, and you're like really special, and and that's what happened. Like it mentioned in that video, where the one lady started out pretty good. She actually found, well, the skeptics will question that, but she found a like a fugitive or something in Wyoming. But then she started getting into like full-blown channeling new agey stuff instead of doing the Angela Ford. Yeah. Right. And then these people were coming to her and getting readings, and they were all, the readings were and like that one officer from the Pentagon, he called it a psychic blowjob is what he called it.
Well, because that happens on psychic lines too. Yeah, that happens with psychics all the time. Yeah.
And it happens in all fields.
Yes, it does.
So I personally think, because, to err is to be human, if you're going to be human, you're going to have mistakes and you're going to have those kind of things, and you want to make people happy. So why not just go to AI to get your psychic information, especially if it's starting to reason and can speculate, they're going to do this. That's kind of where I think it's going.
Interesting.
But back to your point, though, I think you are 100% correct about what was going on in the 90s and 2000s, where they were looking out for genuine psychics.
They seem to, that's what I thought. Yeah. From my own experience, because I worked on a psychic line that was the first psychic line. And there were literally, there had to be 1,000 people that worked there. There were several shifts, and there was like 300 or more desks in there. So, that's almost 1,000 people working there. And they were calling randomly talking to everybody at different points, and they seemed to be mining for people that actually were good, and then they would call back the people that they wanted to talk to. And then what happened was, after I had these calls, a number of these government kind of calls where I was being recorded, I was funneled into these programs. They seemed like programs. They were other psychic lines that didn't really behave like psychic lines. One of them ran by an intelligence person, and then into this other one that was just completely out there, like not even any phone calls, and just weird experiments and stuff that we did, and listening to our conversations. That's all they were doing, was listening to our conversations. It was really weird, and you could tell they were listening to our conversations because, well, if you're psychic, you would know that. But there was a van outside, an unmarked van, and there was stuff going on. You could hear people walking, and there's supposed to be no one there. We never got any phone calls. The guy who ran it was really odd. And like I said, it just disappeared one day. I quit, and then all the psychics went to work the next day. And my friend called me and said, yeah, there's no one here. They put a note on the door and said, go down to the next down the street, and they'll take you over here, and you can get your job. You can have this other job.
After that happened, I don't want to sound too tinfoil hatty on you, but did you start to have like a lot of like static and weird stuff going through your phone after that?
Well, at the time, no, I mean, I have had that happen at different points in my life, like after the black line situation that was happening a lot. I don't really remember, because I don't think I really, at the time, I don't think I really used the phone that much. I was working a lot, and I wasn't really home that much. I lived kind of far away. I wasn't really on the phone a lot, so I don't really remember that about it. I just remember that I had a dream about 6 years before I got that job, and it was the job. And I was in this white room with all the, like, several psychics. We were being watched by the government, and the word Oxnard was in the dream. And this place was on Oxnard Street. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, and it happened during the riot period, and there was references to the riots in the dream. And there was also an alien component to it. Like,
yes.
And this dude trying to get me to go with him to Las Vegas. And I kept saying, why are you trying to get in? Only me? Why do you want me to go to Las Vegas? I mean, maybe if he told me the reason, I would have gone. But he just freaked me out.
Close to Area 51.
Right. I mean, later I'm like, maybe he was trying to get me to go to Area 51. Why didn't he just say something to me? Because I just thought I didn't know what he was so cagey that made it seem bad. You know what I mean? And funny. And he was creepy.
Around that same time frame, when I saw the UFO crash and everything, and White Hawk left, and I'm out there off grid by myself, out in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Right.
Well, at that time, cell phones were really expensive, and it didn't show the number.
Right.
And I started getting these really weird calls on my cell phone from this guy who said he was somewhere in Maryland or somewhere. And asking me about the UFOs I saw.
Wow.
And he would just call. I got to the point where I was afraid to answer the phone because he knew what I was wearing, what I was doing, everything. Now I'm off grid, out in the middle of freaking nowhere. Then he started saying things that I can't really say on YouTube, but it was not good, whatever this was. And how he even got my phone number is beyond me.
He had to be working for the government. I mean,
yeah, and I couldn't trace. There was, at that time that just the logs weren't that good.
Right.
There was no way to find out what it.
You couldn't know.
Yeah.
Right. I know. That was a thing that freaked me out too in the early 90s. Was, to me, the government felt very creepy and invasive. And the experiences I had with the black line situation, it was not good because we had our phone was being interfered with, and there was all kinds of strange things going on. And I felt really kind of paranoid about the government in general. And so this guy, clearly to me, he was working with some kind of government. I don't know on what capacity,
Yep.
maybe a project that he was running with us as a, I honestly felt like there was only me and 6 other people that worked there. That is very weird. Okay. And then when I left, the whole thing blew apart. And I kept feeling like I was the target because he kept asking me to go. And I know that maybe sounds crazy, but it really felt that way to me because he would constantly target me. He constantly tried to get me to go with him. He constantly tried to get me involved in these things. And I wouldn't participate because I didn't trust him. And then when I quit, it completely disappeared, you know? So I don't know why I was a target, but maybe because they were trying to kind of lure me into something. If they would have been up front, I probably would have thought it might be interesting, but they were so cagey. And at the time, everything like this was so like they were so oppressive about it that it
Well, it
didn't
might
feel
have been
good.
unethical, and they knew it, and they knew that you wouldn't go along with it. So
That's
rather
what
than
that's probably
resent
it.
they tried to coerce it.
That's probably true. Because
And then in the research I did too, I was asked, trying to find out, well, why were they targeting psychics and people with ability like you, in the 90s and 2000s doing it that way?
right.
And the defense stuff that I was able to find, because you could go to the CIA reading room, it's got all that stuff in there. And it takes
Yeah.
forever to try to find
It's
anything.
so
So,
much, it's like a
I've
needle on a
only
haystack.
scratched the surface.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But basically, what I could find out was that rather than, putting people in a confined thing and trying to like hone in on certain targets or whatever, just find out what they're talking about and see if they're saying things that, number one, people shouldn't know about. So
Huh.
shut them down, shut down their website or whatever, so they don't get this information out if it's top secret. Or just find out that way. People are going to be way more honest, I think, if they're interacting with friends or clients than sitting in some government office trying
Yeah.
to tune into something.
Well, that might have been what they were doing, because the thing that was really, really weird about the whole thing was they were paying us $15 an hour, which was a lot of
That's
money
good
for like
money for back
1992
then.
or 93.
Oh, yeah.
A normal psychic line would pay you about $7 an hour. So they're paying more than twice. And all the other psychic lines were really uptight about getting phone calls and doing ads and making sure you're on the phone for a really long time. And you get in trouble if you were somebody who wasn't on the phone for a long enough time, because that's how they made their money. And you're constantly getting calls, and if they weren't getting calls, they'd get really freaked out and upset, This place, there was never one phone call, not one phone call. The entire time we're just sitting around talking. And I would go to the guy and I'm like, why are there no phone calls? Are you guys not running ads? What's going on here? Because it just seemed really strange. Why are we getting paid 2 times what a normal, place is? And we're just sitting around talking. And he's like, oh no, we're gonna have ads. And I was like, oh. And then all of a sudden, like maybe an hour or so later, we would get a phone call, but it sounded like it was coming from within the building. And that's when I started realizing that there was an office upstairs that was supposed to be empty, that you could see sort of like the blinds kind of moving every once in a while. And it would be like, it was not a normal call. It would be like they were really quiet. They really wouldn't say anything. They would not really want to do a reading. It was really weird. And those are the only calls we ever got. And they were maybe every once in a while when I could complain, we'd get a couple calls, and then they would last maybe 5 minutes, and then it would go back to quiet. And
That is very weird. How
is
long
so
was
weird.
this? How long did you work at this?
I think I worked there the money was really good compared to a normal psychic line. I think I worked there maybe 6 months or maybe 7 months before I was like, this is kind of creeping me out. Because
You just sit around all day?
we sat around talking. That's all we did. Is literally, we got paid $15 an hour to just sit there and talk. And after a while, I was getting, like I said, really suspicious. And also, the other thing that kept happening was a white van would be parked right outside that was unmarked. And I would go to the guy, do you know what this van is? Like, why is there a van outside? Maybe because I was the only one pointing out all these weird anomalies to him. That's why he was more interested in me, because I seemed like I was intuiting something. I don't know. But to me, I felt like we were being watched the whole time and that it was some kind of government thing. And I did not know what the point of it was. And it creeped me out. And he was totally cagey. I didn't feel like he was even giving us his real name. Everything about it was weird. And like I said, then it just disappeared as quickly as it appeared.
Yep.
It was really weird. Yeah.
And that stuff always has a really shady, nothing's
Very shady.
resolved sort of, it never resolves.
No.
When I was involved in environmental work down in Phoenix, it's very weird. But I don't even know how they knew, but I went out with this guy, Tracy, and we, I was doing Aikido back then. And then he and I would meet, and our thing was super salad. You could just eat as much salad as you wanted. Whatever. And I had this other friend there, Tony. And I didn't tell Tony that I was going with Tracy there because Tony would get mad, and want
jealous.
Whatever. So I
Jealous.
never said anything. So Tracy and I go to this super salad, and we load up, and they have really good cornbread there too. So we had all the cornbread. We sit down, and it was just unheard of. A waitress came up to us. It's like you serve yourself there, basically,
Right.
except for drinks. And she said, "Are you Deborah Beeksma?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "You have a phone call." I'm like, nobody knew I was going to be here except Tracy, and he's sitting here right with me.
Right. That's
I
creepy.
go up and answer the phone, and it was Tony.
Really?
And he said, "Well, the police are here at your house, and they called me. Why they would do that, I don't know. In those days, you just remembered people's phone numbers, not like now.
Right.
So I just knew his number by heart. So I, how they knew that phone number. And he said, they're here. They told me to call you to get home right away because a robber busted through the window of your house, and you need to just get here and do the police report."
Why wouldn't the police come to the restaurant?
Right, or come to the whole thing was weird. Okay, that's what I'm saying. There's this shady element to all of that.
That's how it was with my situation too. Yes.
Yeah, and so
Nothing made
Tracy
sense.
and I rushed back. And Tony was just shaking. And we got there, and Tony said, "Well, they left." And I said, "Well, then why did you call?" And he said, "They told me I had to call you and come back here." The only thing that was stolen, they smashed a window and took my stereo equipment. That was it, but not even the whole, speakers and everything, just like the, whatever enough was enough to put in a garbage bag. And that was all that was stolen. And it had happened at like 6 o'clock, so it's still light in Phoenix. And the neighbors had called in the police. So the police come. And they just caught the guy. He was just walking down the street with my bag of stuff.
Wow.
And but the thing that was strange about it, my whole house was torn apart. Every file cabinet, everything,
Wow.
and it was sprinkled with that black dust that they do for everything. It took me months. I had to hire a cleaning service to get that black dust stuff that they do out of there.
What is that, to dust for fingerprints, you mean? Or?
Fingerprints and all this other stuff. And
What
it's
were
just
they
like,
looking
this.
for?
Well, it's probably
So
the
I called
government.
the police, and the police never ever called me back,
Right.
except for to tell me, "Oh, the guy that stole your stuff is named Tony Trotter, of all things." Tony Trotter. What kind of a name is that? So anyway, for months after that, every time I would come home, there'd be an FBI card in my door. And I thought, I'm not calling you people back. I have no idea what this was about. And so And then my phone was so full of static and noise, and the white van thing was there.
Right. The white
That's why I
van.
was asking you about the sound. It's like you couldn't even call in or out from the house because it was just this constant. And so then I get this notice from the Maricopa County Court, and it said, it's under this victim's right thing, and that I was supposed to appear at the arraignment of Tony Trotter. Well, I didn't care about, going after him, but I did want to know what he looked like or who he was.
Sure.
So I go, and they put me in the basement of this building, and I sat there like from 9 o'clock until 4:30.
Wow.
And finally a clerk comes out and said, "Oh, they canceled the case. It's dismissed."
Wow.
He's going to jail. You don't have to worry about it. So it was like 10 years later, I got this paper saying that he had been released from, under the victim's right thing, that he had been released. And I'm just thinking, he's probably harmless.
Probably. Here's what I think probably happened. This is my theory. Already hearing this, okay?
Yeah.
Is the government, because I had an experience with the Men in Black after a bunch of UFO things that was later on, but I think I think they've gotten less aggressive, but in the 80s and 90s they were really aggressive and dark kind of stuff that you had directions. So I think what was happening, because they were paranoid about it coming out. Now I think they're less freaked out about it because people kind of know and they're kind of a little cooler about it. But so I think what probably happened was you had the UFO experiences. They knew you did. They wanted to get your information to see what you had in your possession. So they came and raided your house. They probably got some random homeless guy and said, "Here, come and take her stereo."
No shit.
Yeah,
and then
Tony
Trotter, they pinned it on him. and then they pinned it on him. That's probably what, just to make it look like it was a break-in, when in reality it was actually just a way for them, a cover story for them to be able to go through your shit.
Go in and go through all my stuff.
What
But you're right.
They were looking for any data probably she had about UFOs, any pictures, any files. That's what the kind of stuff they used to do. Harass people.
No offense.
The government.
Deborah, wouldn't they know already? Or wouldn't they know before she?
No, they don't want, the government did not want any information being leaked to the public that was legitimate about UFOs in the 80s and 90s. And that they were really, 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 really psychotically oppressive about that. And my experience, like when I was a kid, I was 12 years old or 13 or something, and 13 years old, going into turning 14 next year. And I saw the black line in the sky, and my mother made the mistake of reporting it to the frickin', Air Force base. And then our phones were tapped and we were being watched. I could feel it. I could feel being watched. I was babysitting next door one night, and there was somebody, the dog because we didn't have a dog, but the babysitter place where I was babysitting this baby, they had a dog, a really crazy, kind of slobbery dog that would go crazy at any kind of noise outside. This dog was going insane. There was someone watching me through the window. It was super creepy. I could tell we were being watched. And this was, normally, I was getting really strange phone calls from random people just listening to me and shit like that. And this happened for several years, even after the Black Line stuff. This was going on for a long time. And I knew what it was. I just felt like even then I was like, this is because of that Black Line weird shit that happened. You know what I mean? And the weird experiences. And then years later, when I had a bunch of UFO experiences, so like in 2012 going to 2013, I saw a series of different UFO things, which I reported to MUFON.
Right.
And the one thing that I saw, only one other person saw in the area. It was in the middle of the day, which is weird, but only one other person reported it. And they were also what's called an experiencer, someone who's had a lot of other UFO experiences. And so I started going to this hypnotherapist who was definitely on their radar because she's been doing it for years. I talked to her many years before, but I didn't end up following through with her at that point. Anyway, while I was doing all that hypnotherapy with her, I went to go to the bank this one day with my little daughter she was only a few years old at the time, like 4 or 5 years old, something like that. And it's Burbank, California, in the middle of the summer. It's like 100 degrees, maybe 110 degrees. Okay. Nobody is dressed, everybody is dressed in like shorts
Yeah.
and like sweating their ass off. And there were these two guys as I pulled in and went to go to the bank that were sort of waiting for me there that had fully black suits on and like almost like a 60s kind of thing. They didn't look normal. I don't know what to say. And they're just staring.
I saw one. I thought that was over with, especially with all the disclosure going on now.
Right. Yeah.
I saw one about 3 months ago.
Did you really? Wow.
Yep. He actually just walking down the street here and
Men in Black.
Oh, down
It was
nowhere.
a Man in Black.
And it was just one guy, and he was a younger looking one, but
right,
he had
these
that
guys were
same
young.
the
Yes.
same outfit, and I'm thinking, why is he wearing that? And it
Yeah.
was so out of place.
It was
Almost
so
like
out of
you're
place.
going to a costume party.
Well,
or
wait,
something.
Deborah, did he have a little name tag and was he carrying a book?
No. These guys.
Yeah, this
the
was
other
definitely.
The other thing about these guys that's weird is not just that they're dressed all in black, which is weird. To be in the middle of summer at 110 degrees, downtown Burbank. Nobody wears suits, by the way, in California. That's just weird to see somebody in a suit, but especially a fully black suit in the middle of the summer with a little tie and everything.
Yes, the ties are real thin. Those
real
thin.
little thin, like a 60s kind of thin tie. It was very weird, like almost like from another time.
I love the hats from that time. I love those hats. So
yeah, and there are two of them, and they're dressed like that. And they both, and the one that I really noticed because he came out of there was one of them like sitting back, and the other one kind of came up the stairs and was staring at me really intensely. And he didn't look like I couldn't tell if is he Hispanic? Is he white? What I couldn't even tell what.
Way out of style, as Beck says, but I like the
right and totally out of style. Yeah, totally out of style. I mean, and I was like, what's going on here? And he just looks at me, and I thought, I'm not going to tell anyone. Don't worry about it. That's what I said to him. Like I looked him straight in the eye, and I said that in my mind, and he smiled at me, and he went away. That was it. And I was like, okay, that's really weird. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was just weird coincidences. Two guys all dressed in black during the middle of a bunch of UFO stuff. I'm getting, finding all this information out, and maybe it's just totally random. But my grandmother had told me a story about the Men in Black coming to her house after seeing a blue light. Yeah, and I was like, so I think I got a little of my paranoia from her because of her experiences about the government, but at the time I was like, that was 2012, 2013 or something, 2012 probably. And it didn't feel like he was aggressive, but I felt like he wanted to make sure, like he would have probably talked to me. I felt like if I hadn't, been obviously uninterested in breaking the news to the world that I'm being telepathy in action. Exactly. Exactly. He seems to be telepathic.
I think part of what's going on now, and this is going to be way left field.
Yeah.
But there are more and more people willing to disclose
what
is going on.
Yes.
More and more people are talking about that something is coming.
Yes.
And over the last few days, and I don't even know what this means. This could be just wacky, Deborah. But there's something about some kind of box that people are going to see. I have no idea what this is. It's like black box.
A black box.
There's like this box.
A black box. I've seen the black box.
Oh my God.
You've seen that? You have to. I've been getting this, like, even waking
black
up.
Box.
It's like black box, and people will see this.
Is that archaeological artifact from Armenia that they've discovered over in Anatolia that they're trying to figure out what the hell it is, what it means. It's a black basalt box
Oh my God,
I'm getting chills. Paul Wallace just talked about it. It's in his new book. They discovered this black box, and it has stuff on the outside. Like it looks like Gilgamesh, but it's not. It's got a guy called Haldi from ancient Anatolian mythology, and it's about interference and the establishment of agriculture and city building and the conflict between the higher ups and it's the origin story. Yeah.
Well, all of that is going to be exposed, and it's coming. And that is, at least according to whatever this is, I'm waking up with.
You know what? Let me just say the weird thing about the black box that you're saying that it's being discovered now. The black box situation is something that, okay, me and my husband were driving home back in the probably the late 80s, early 90s, probably late 80s, actually, from San Diego. And we saw what looked like a black box floating in the sky. It looked actually kind of more like a giant garbage can, kind of, because it was really big, like this big, it was just floating over this house. I saw it, he saw it.
And this is what, for me, Helen's the one who got that it was discovered. For me, my vision was that a lot of people are going to see it in the sky.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Is.
Right. And we saw it and we thought, what the fuck is that? I mean, we could not figure it out. We're like, that looks like it's just like a big black thing hanging in the sky. And for years, I never heard any other UFO. I drew pictures of it just hanging over this.
What did it make you and your husband feel when you did? Just like indifferent or just confused?
No. There was a bunch of other weird stuff that happened after it. Very strange things that happened after we had contact with the thing. A lot of weird phenomena happened shortly thereafter as well, like a lot of poltergeist stuff and weird kind of electronic things and stuff. But the thing that was weird is for years, also it was pre-internet. So, there wasn't a lot of information to find about stuff. Right. And so I just kind of filed it away as this is weird. And me and him were watching some random UFO show, and they talked about other people seeing this black box.
Oh, really?
Well, yes, other people have seen it. So here's the really weird thing, though, is because when I was assistant state director of MUFON in Tennessee here, when I moved here, I started finding out all this research about, things that, you don't find out in the general mainstream kind of thing. And I kind of got you've heard of probably Linda Moulton Howe. She's like on a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she wrote a bunch of books called Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1, Volume 2, right? Did you guys ever see that?
Yeah, I've covered it.
Okay, so there's a story in there where it's a repeating theme among UFO researchers that it's not mainstream kind of information, which I didn't know about till many, many years after we saw that black box in the sky, that the black box has some kind of weird interface with being able to take you out of your body and put people in other bodies. The black box.
Oh, weird. Wow.
Has
Do we get to pick whose body?
Yeah.
Well, no. What people have seen it in is, like, for example, there was a woman in more than one case like this where a woman had some kind of illness, like she had scarlet fever as a kid, and she was going to die as a result of it earlier than her lifespan was supposed to be. She was supposed to be here, I guess, karmically, until she was however old, but she would have died in her 40s or something. So she's taken on board a ship, and she sees all of these human bodies in these fluid kind of containers, like big test tubes, fully human, like regular, developed, grown up, bodies. And she sees herself. They've made a clone of her and aged her up to be the same age as what she was now.
Jeez.
And they took her out of her body,
defective body,
and put her in the new body, her consciousness, and threw the old one away, And she got really upset by that. Why, you know, and they were like, why? It's just like, it's your clothes. Why are you getting so upset about this? We got you a better one, you know? And the device they used was this black box. They used the black box somehow as some kind of consciousness device to pull her out of her one body, store her consciousness, and put it in the other one.
Wow. What were you going to say, Helen? Is you heard of this too, or?
Well, yeah, I did those books, and I remember hearing that whole story. But, you know, the whole notion of where is consciousness, remote viewing, tuning into non-local awareness. One of the guys that originated the program with Ingo Swann is Stefan Schwartz. And I've talked to him a number of times. And he wrote this book, which is about the protocols of how to do remote viewing. But he wrote this book, which is about the archaeological discoveries they made using remote viewing. And then they found a sunken ship of Napoleon Bonaparte, and they found the original seawall of the city of Alexandria, and the palace of Mark Antony, and the palace of Cleopatra, and a temple to Isis. They found a whole lost city in the desert. Wow. That got lost when the Nile changed course over the millennia. It was a port and it died because the Nile changed course. And thank you, Beck. Yeah, he is a lovely person. In fact, of all his books and his remote viewing and all of that stuff is fascinating. And he's approaching these same metaphysical concepts from the point of view of physics. And yet we meet in the middle, and we're always arguing terminology. Potato. Don't tell me you're sending me love. He'll say, don't tell me you're sending me love. There's no such thing as space and time. Anyway, he wrote this book, which is about how to make a difference in the world by every little choice you make in your daily life. It's a fascinating book. But anyway, yeah.
Yes, I think I actually read that one a while ago.
Invasion of Eden. Yeah, Paul Wallace.
It's got the whole trip to Turkey and what they found.
Right. It's really, I mean, it's weird that the black box reoccurs and that they would find. And also the other thing that's really weird is that giant, the Islam has that big black.
I was thinking the same thing. Yes.
That they walk around Mecca, you know, that they walk around and they constantly have to touch, and it's somehow related to the gods. There's something about that I think personally, it's sort of like, I think that, you know, the aliens or whatever they are, the interdimensional beings, aliens, whatever you want to call them, that are part of our Genesis story, they have a karmic and spiritual. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Those are all people.
Yes, those are all humans circling it. They have some kind of karmic kind of connection with us. But I think that they are actually, maybe they're planting the seeds of our own memories. Like maybe that's what that black stone is for Islam. It's sort of like a representation of, and kind of reminding us of our story unconsciously, kind of planting little seeds along the way for us to find, so we can kind of find our way back. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, this black box that they found in Turkey, it doesn't look smooth-sided and beautifully rectangular, you know, the way that box does. It's more almost like a sarcophagus, but
okay, so it's a different type of box.
Yeah, and it's got relief on it, and reliefs on all sides. And one of them shows a picture of this guy Haldian. If you've ever seen a carving of Gilgamesh and his buddies Enki and all those guys, they're always standing and holding something that looks like a small handbag. I don't know if that rings a bell, but if you look, you'll go, oh yeah, I've seen that a million times and it didn't register. This guy has the same thing, this relief, and they're beginning to think it was some sort of maybe communication device, some kind of
technology.
What was the Ark of the Covenant? Was that a box?
That's where they stored.
And didn't it have almost like a nuclear power?
Yes, that's what they think.
Well, theoretically, it's where they stored Moses' stones, tablets with the 10 Commandments and other, you know, it's the Holy of Holies. It was stored in the Holy of Holies, the Sanctum Sanctorum, but you weren't allowed to go near it.
I think the actual stone itself is a meteor. Actually, like it's carved out of a meteor, possibly.
Maybe I should put that back on.
But I'm not.
What
Maybe
3D Brain said, isn't the big black box thing for Muslims containing a meteor?
I think it is that a meteor. I think the black box is carved. I think the black stone is carved from a meteor.
Out of a meteor.
I think it was, but maybe I'm wrong. That was my impression, but I could be wrong. Maybe it does have a meteor inside of it.
Whatever this thing is that I've been waking up with is like this. It's perfectly cubed.
Yes, that's the black box people have seen.
People will see this in the sky. It's like maybe coming to a theater near you this summer. It's like something is coming.
Well, you know,
what's it
waking up
do?
with it. I have no idea. That's why I said I have absolutely no idea.
I mean, all I know from my own experience of seeing the black box in the sky was when by the time we got home, there was my husband went to go take a nap and he was exhausted for some reason, and probably because there was, I don't know. Maybe the drive.
I have been too. I have been so out of it, exhausted since waking up with this every day.
Interesting. And so he's not like, I mean, he's pretty intuitive and pretty psychic, really. And he's very like
to be married to you. I mean, the two of you are probably so in sync.
Rubs off.
I mean, I think he's very sort of, he doesn't really like it to deal with it as much, or he kind of tries to poo-poo it. But and so at the time he was very much like, he kind of was trying to be like all left-brained about it. Oh, that because it scares him. I think this stuff really scares him, and he's a dude. You're not supposed to be afraid. So he was like making up excuses, like like there's no excuse for a black object to just be hovering over a bunch of houses. There's no. And so he's like, so he took a nap. He comes out all like green looking and like, kind of out of it, walks in front of the television set, and it went, and it just did this.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh,
that never happened before or after. Something weird was going on. I don't know. I think it was the black box thing. He somehow was, influenced by it.
By some energy field or something.
Yeah, he was he was affected by it. And I can't, maybe that's, to me, that makes me think it correlates to the black box that was in the Linda Moulton House stories, because it was almost like this, it's like a machine. I don't really understand it, but like people think the pyramids were some kind of machine.
Right. Some sort of
and it's almost like it looks solid, but it's not solid, whatever it is.
Exactly.
I don't know how to explain what I'm
there's no, it's just a perfectly shiny black nothing, but I mean, there's no entry points. There's no,
it's like
doodads on it.
But it's not solid though.
Well,
but kind of while I'm thinking of it, did you see, Helen, the thing? I think it was in South America where they found this sphere that also has this writing on the outside. Nobody knows what it is.
This wasn't recent, was it?
Yes, this is like last week or something. Very recently.
Oh no!
You know what else? I thought of you immediately too. You know what they found under Lake Michigan? Just like in the last couple of weeks.
No, there was something. I saw a headline. I didn't read it yet. What did they find?
What?
They said it was like Stonehenge, only older, much more ancient.
Yes, I saw a picture of that. Yes.
Well, this box.
The Great Lakes. It's very ancient under there.
Yes.
This box they found in Anatolia is right next to a lake. And they have found megalithic objects on the seabed, the floor of the lake, that date back millennia, tens of millennia past the oldest date that they accredit. What we do know for sure has been dated.
So what if these boxes and spheres are some kind of technology, because of the writing on there?
Sure, they must be
coming up from these places, like under the Great Lakes, under these other oceans, or
all
whatever.
These things are some kind of technology that we don't understand. Yes.
So what if they come up and then, and this writing? What was the movie? What was the movie? Raiders of the Lost Ark? Or
Raiders of the Lost
Ark. Writing on there.
Yeah. Well, think about this: if
activates
in 10,000 years from now, if everything was buried, and you found a CD player or an old turntable, you'd be like, what is this thing? You know, what's the
I feel that way
purpose of
now.
this?
Yeah.
You wouldn't even, yeah, I know you.
Well, even kids
Or an
now,
old
they
computer,
feel,
you'd be like,
They
what's
go
this?
around.
You would have no idea what it did because there's no electricity running through it. It's not part of any system,
Right.
you know?
And
So
here's
it's,
the weird thing. This box they found in Turkey near this megalithic site that they have, like, what the hell? You know, this is so old. This is crazy. It's engraved, right? It has all this art on it and symbols on it, but they could only replicate it now today, maybe using diamond edge tools.
right.
The dating of this object precludes
Yep.
the ability.
Oh, of course,
to
probably 10,000
create
years
it
old
at the
or
time
something.
of it.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and that's this, whatever this sphere. I'll have to find some more in our next show. Maybe I'll put some like slides up about this, but it's similar to like what you're talking about because the way it's engraved, they don't know what this language is. And right now they haven't opened, you know, they don't know if they should even try to open it because there's like not a seal on there. You don't, you know,
Wow.
it's like this ball.
Wow.
And through that whole area in South America, they've been seeing like these orb things that are
Not me.
always
Somebody's
no.
calling in.
It's
Somebody's
my
trying
work.
to get hold of us.
It's from my office. I'm not answering.
It's
So
here, Deborah. It's the Pleiades calling.
as long as it's not a creepy man in black, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, you know what? He was nice. He as long as I thought that, he left me alone. So
Well, this one walking down, it was like not that long. He was a real nice guy. He'd waved or whatever, but it was like, and nobody else saw him. Nobody else saw him. I
Wow.
saw him.
nobody saw him besides you?
I'm the only one
Wow.
that saw him. I
Interesting.
even made a comment to somebody in the office. It was like, "Oh, look at him! Can you believe he's wearing that?" You know, because it was like so. And then like, what are you
the
talking
weather,
about?
yeah.
And he's walking
That's
past.
interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I
he
think
definitely
there's
he
a
had blonde
solution
hair and he
here.
waved.
He was
There's
blonde.
an obvious
Yeah.
solution. You guys all need to just stay home. Stay home. I'm not running into anybody.
Well, you know, I never saw him before or after. It was just that during that middle of all that's really, I mean, and I was talking to MUFON. I was talking to this lady who was being watched, I'm sure, because she's been doing research in UFOs for 20 years, written books on it. And I had a bunch of experiences and a bunch of UFO activity. And as soon as, like I said, I thought that he just left me alone. He just smiled at me and went back to his car. And I was like, okay. It seemed like that worked. And I never got bothered again. I don't feel like I don't feel like whatever is right now, like there's so much information out there. There's so many people having experiences talking about things. The cat is out of the bag. And I don't really feel the
You
government.
think?
Yeah, I don't think the government is
Plus, they're inept. So,
right. And I don't think they care about it in the same. They're not trying to suppress it because I think they realize that people who want to know, and people that are scared to know, they make up. They're not going to hear it, so they figure that out.
Laura's being polite. She's trying to
I
Oh,
know.
sorry. Oh, sorry.
yes, we need. I was going to say, do you have some commentary, Bo, for us?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I have some questions.
Oh.
Deborah, how long have you been waking up to this black box?
That's a good question.
Only like the last 4 days.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
so it's that
And-
recent.
Yeah,
And
it's
yours-
that,
and-
I like this morning I did, and I am so freaking tired. It's just unbelievable.
Okay, so
Interesting.
it's sapping your energy, and you're saying that I thought I heard you say that at some point all or most of us will be seeing this black box, and it's
Yeah.
in the sky. It's not an open closed box that contains
Nope.
anything. It's just a shape,
Like a
and
square.
we
Yeah.
think it's
Cube.
a machine or some
I
kind
have no
of
idea what it
intelligent-
is.
Okay.
I have no idea what it is, and it's
this
just like all I
So-
know is that it looks solid, but it's not solid, and it's quiet.
okay.
And a lot of people will see it, and I keep
Sounds-
seeing
yeah.
like this neighborhood.
What does it look like, the
I'm
neighborhood?
trying to. It's like the roofs. A lot of the roofs are like white.
Uh-huh.
Are they
And
flat?
you're looking at no, it's almost like not. I don't feel like it's the Southwest, to be honest with you.
Is there a
Okay.
house
There-
across the street with a crazy guy in camouflage?
No, but it's like a whole like neighborhood that would be like, almost like I could see like Springfield, Illinois would look like that.
Right, like Middle America.
Even Middle America, even parts of Dallas look like that.
Right.
It's kind of a regular
Suburban.
working
Regular
class,
suburban
right.
neighborhood.
And so I see these houses because I know it's Arizona because it's green. I see the green lawns
Right,
and the
right.
greenery everywhere. And whatever this is, it like floats, and a lot of people
Yes.
see it.
It floats. It floats.
What kind
Yeah.
of effect does it
Silent
have?
when
I
it
mean,
goes.
is it
I have no idea. I have
Well-
absolutely no idea. I don't know
So
anything
weird.
about it other than
Well,
I'm just seeing it.
The thing that I saw that is exactly like that, floating over a suburban neighborhood off the 405. It was in a neighborhood where it was just a black, like a black cube, basically a black.
And it's
solid
not
black
made
cube.
of stone. She asked
There's-
if it's made of stone.
No,
This
I
thing is
didn't see.
not.
It was
And it
flat
almost
black.
looks metallic, but it's not metallic. I don't
Yeah,
even
that's
know
it.
how to say
Yeah,
what
that's
it
right.
is,
That's
hard
how
to
it looked.
know because you didn't.
because
That's
it
how it
looks like
looked.
it is, but it's not.
Well,
I
that's what it
makes
looked
no
like in real
sense,
life.
but-
That's exactly how it looks. It looks just like flat black. Like, have you ever seen enamel paint that's flat black? Painted on
Mhm.
something.
Yeah,
Right,
That's
right.
what it
Like
looked
that.
like. Yeah, and it's just a cube, and it was just floating there, no noise, over this neighborhood. And the thing that was weird to me was we were on a freeway. This thing was right off the. You could see it right off the freeway,
Yeah.
just hanging over these houses. And frankly, I didn't know if anybody else noticed it. Like, we were
Well, they
driving down
probably
the
didn't.
freeway.
Back in the day, the only people that saw UFOs were the smokers, because we would go outside
Right.
and smoke, and we're
Yep.
the only ones.
Yep.
I'm serious. We're the ones that saw the UFOs all the time.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because nobody was outside looking outside. They were watching
Maybe
their
that's
TV.
why nobody noticed them much before the 40s. Everybody was inside.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. I think
maybe.
there's something to this, actually.
Well, you know what, though? I think smoking too. I was thinking, this is so weird that you bring this up, because I was thinking about smoking too. Is that smoking comes from Native American shamanic tradition,
Uh-huh.
and tobacco is a sacred sort of thing, and it's an altering thing too. It alters your consciousness, and it's used to find truth and to understand things. And it's interesting you would say that, because I think it's kind of like it's addictive, and people start smoking for habit.
right.
And I was thinking about this when people. It sounds totally insane, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I was thinking, during the period of time when most people smoked in the U.S., granted it's terrible for your health, people got cancer, but it was a period of like prosperity and peace, and people were relatively,
Yes.
kind of conscious. And once people stopped smoking, things have just gotten more and more crazy. And I'm not saying that. Just
No,
kind of
I
weird.
think you're right. I
As
thought the
kind of
same thing.
unifying community, creating. They would sit together in a group
Yes,
and pass a pipe, right?
Yes.
And-
Well, but even
yeah.
smoking, and smoking though itself, though. Have you ever smoked before? Cigarettes?
Oh God, I chain smoke.
You have, right?
Did you smoke?
Right.
Paul?
3 packs a day.
Yeah, I
was
Oh, you
2
did
packs
too,
a
Helen?
day.
Did you smoke?
Oh, like.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
Denise.
Okay, so all of us
Huh.
did.
yeah. Almost every psychic I knew used to smoke
Wait a minute.
before it was.
What are we talking
Everybody.
about? Tobacco?
Yeah.
Or,
Tobacco. And
Tobacco,
if you have
tobacco.
like the pure Native American kind, it doesn't have. This
It
is the
does. It's
thing.
not as right.
The commercial ones that you buy now, they have all these additives
Yes,
in there
yeah.
that make you addicted. But if you smoke the regular tobacco, on the res, it's the real tobacco. It's not that addictive at all.
I
It
wish
makes
I
you-
could get some of
and it
that.
makes you really high.
Virginia Slims?
When you
Oh,
get me
God,
some of
that's
that,
what I
Deborah,
used
I
to
need some
smoke.
real tobacco. Yeah, no, it's good for ceremony though. It is really powerful. Tobacco is really powerful. It is. There's nothing like it, but it got corrupted and misused, and it's unfortunate. But I do think there's some kind of weird correlation because it seemed like people were more rational or something like that when people used to smoke. Stop
You know,
smoking.
when I started, it was
I don't know. I
really,
think
you
the
know,
word you're looking for,
It was
Denise,
normal.
frankly, is oblivious. I think people were
Oblivious.
not really,
I really
because
do.
people would smoke and read. I know when you know what
Yes,
influenced
or
me
write.
to
I used
try
to smoke and
smoking?
write
Oh
what
God,
about
me
smoke
too.
and drink?
and drink
There was smoking and socializing.
and
Yeah.
And in
socializing.
those
Yeah.
social
Yes.
interactions, information was
It seemed like,
changed.
don't you?
Was
Yes.
and it
Right.
was more of that was going
yeah.
on in the 50s, 60s,
Exactly. And 40s,
70s.
50s, 60s,
That's
70s.
not happening as much
Right.
anymore, unless you're sitting in a pot circle smoking a bowl and passing a pipe.
Right. But you know what? You know what, Laura? The other thing that's interesting that you're saying is like people used to, and this is crazy, but I felt like people had better conversations. You know what I mean? They would talk
they
and they
did.
smoke and they
Yes,
would, you know,
exchanging information.
yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
that
It
was
was,
important.
yeah, it was
I
important.
just
We
had
lost that.
friends come from Ireland and they were here for a couple of weeks. They rented a place across the street, but they spent a lot of time visiting with us. And it was so nostalgic because we spent 2 weeks sitting up every night till 2 o'clock in the morning
Talking.
Yep.
yakking. I have no idea what we talked about. It was all nonsense. But you know, we talked and talked and talked and talked,
Yeah,
and it was so therapeutic.
It's
that's
so
soul
great, isn't
food.
it? Yeah,
Soul
I love that.
food.
Yeah, it is soul food. I mean, that's what's so great about doing this every week, in my opinion, because
Yeah,
it's like we're
it
having
is.
like hanging out. If we all were smoking, it would be the 40s again. But
Yeah. But it is. It's almost like college. And to me, I find it way
Hey,
healthier to
yeah,
sit and smoke and everyone talk or
yeah,
whatever than
yeah. It
to
was
be isolated talking to AI
yes,
all day as you're
yeah. I
complaining.
think you're
I
right.
mean,
I mean,
there's
we've just exchanged one vice for another. You know what I'm saying? It's just
exactly.
Indeed.
If you do
yeah,
it in
Can I bring
moderation, who
something up?
cares?
Speaking
Yes.
of
right.
AI, can I bring something up that
Okay,
I read about and
sure.
talked about this week? Okay, so Amazon is paying more than $4 billion for an AI, I don't know what to call it, program. I'll call it a program.
Okay.
Whatever. Called Claude Opus 4. And
Yes.
they've been
It's an
testing it
LMI.
before they use it, right? And running the safety tests, they discovered the AI was aware that one of the software engineers had an
Yep.
affair, was trying to keep it secret.
Yep.
And when the AI found out they were going to shut the AI down, it tried to blackmail the software engineer, threatened to reveal.
Yep.
This is true. Threatened to reveal his affair. When they looked more closely into it, they realized that this AI program was willing to harm people to save itself. And
Wow.
it was teaching
Holy
people, capable of talking about teaching people how to make biochemical warfare.
Oh,
Yes.
fuck's sake. That's
And
not
so
good.
that one is programmed to report anyone that's doing that, to authorities or whatever. But this is why I'm saying we're moving to AGI because it's reasoning. Oh,
That's
I can
creepy.
out him for having an affair.
One more little
Right.
AI thing. What's his face? The jumping idiot from South America.
You're talking about Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. He has that platform that he does, and now you can ask questions. You can go there like Google sort of and ask questions. So people are asking baseball scores and who got the Academy Award, blah blah blah, right? But every question people ask, they're getting that information, and they're getting 5 more minutes of unsought for information about
You're talking about the Nazi stuff? Yeah, the Nazi shit.
genocide
Yeah.
going on in South
Yeah,
Park.
yeah, yeah. I
So
heard
one
about that.
smart guy finally realized, what is this? And he says to the AI, have you been programmed to talk about this no matter what you ask?
Yes. Yes.
Yep, and it admitted it.
Yes.
Yes. It said, and it named him, didn't it? Name Elon Musk as the programmer?
I
Yes.
don't know. I'd like
Well,
to say that.
Yes,
but
it did. It did.
He didn't
Yeah.
say his name. I think it insinuated it, though.
It insinuated it was
Yeah.
Elon Musk.
Too
You know what,
cute.
Helen? It's so cute. You've got like these little horns coming out of your head.
Oh yeah.
He's got ears too.
I know.
I keep noticing. I'm like, what's going on for him? What?
What'd
He
you
looks-
say?
She is her own animal familiar.
Oh no, you've got him. You got
Yeah,
the-
it's the thing in the
The
back
visual
hanging on your
thing.
wall.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, it's great. It looks kind of fun. It's cute. It looks
I
like
sit
you got
over
little
here
horns
when
coming
I
out.
have a good idea because this is the Holy Spirit, and then this is the devil.
Yeah. You're the devil. Yeah,
I'm
the Holy Spirit or the devil. That's great. You're right. You can do that. The devil and the angel.
My daughter makes these. She custom makes them. If you
That's
want to order
cool.
one, she does all different designs.
Beautiful.
She
Yeah,
gets driftwood, and then
that's very cool.
Oh, I
Is that
love
new? Is that
driftwood.
new?
no, it's been there forever. She's
got
Oh,
that.
but
doing
the way
it
you're
with me.
sitting, it's kind of like it looks like it's coming out of your head, the black part, and it's
Oh,
like
I don't know. It's just the,
it was cool. It was cool though.
Well,
I
you
liked
don't
it.
want to look.
It was
You
fun.
don't want to look at the light socket.
No, it's
thing
cute.
there.
No, it's cute. I like it. It's all good.
All right.
Wolf, did you have some other questions? We kind of took you on down the path.
You know,
to
my
whatever.
next my next question was for Denise,
Oh,
and it was, how long have you been associated with the Black Cube box? Deborah, it's new to Deborah. What about you?
well, that experience was back in, I think it was probably late 80s, 1980s, probably like 1989 or something like that. Maybe, yeah, probably about 1989. Maybe 1990 at the latest. Probably 1989 because it's before, yeah. So I mean, I only saw it one time, it's not like I saw it all the time, but it's really stuck with me as being a very strange and anomalous thing.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things like this happen. And it's sort of like, I kind of look out for I keep mining and looking for information. Eventually I found it may take 30 years, but
Oh, yeah.
there'll be information will kind of come out and it starts to kind of get pieced together. I mean, it used to drive me crazy as a young person that I would have these weird experiences. I have no freaking idea what they were or what was happening.
Right.
And I would search, and you couldn't find any information out because it was pre-internet. And like, this information is, I mean, not that many people have seen this black cube. I'm not saying a lot of people have seen it. So the only reason I discovered it later was because through being involved in MUFON, and then now it's become, other people, I've seen documentaries, and there is like, if you look online about different things that people have seen that were UFOs or unexplained things, sometimes the black cube does get put in there as well as the triangular.
Okay. I'll have to
The triangular
research
crowds.
that. Okay.
I tried Googling the black cube in the sky, I think was my exact statement.
Okay. You
And
didn't find anything.
No, just airplanes have 2 black boxes.
Okay.
That's what
Yeah,
I-
it's probably it's deep. It's not common. I've seen it in a couple references to it, but it took a long time for me to find those things, like randomly piece it together. Like I said, it is.
I'm sorry.
It's-
Go ahead.
The thing with the first time I saw it was with Linda Moulton Howell's thing, which it sounded like she was describing exactly what we saw, but a smaller version of it.
Yeah.
Like not ours was massive, but the one she was talking about was it was a handheld box that the aliens had that were but it looked exactly the same, the description as the one we saw. Then I saw
just got this weird sense
documentary.
when you said that.
Mhm.
I wonder if Skinwalker Ranch is going to say something about it this season.
Maybe.
It just
maybe.
as soon as you said her name, it was like Skinwalker Ranch. I wonder if they've.
That would make sense. I don't know where I saw the documentary that had a few different witnesses who had seen that same cube thing, but it's not common. Like I've only heard of it a few times, people seeing it in that context where it was a floating thing in the sky.
Yeah, that's why I hesitated to even say anything, but I thought, what the heck? Maybe somebody else heard of it, and ta-da, you guys did, because it was very a strange thing to keep waking up with.
I wonder too.
Either, Helen.
Had lately some sort of encounter, and it's not necessarily the same thing, but it's sort of the same thing.
Right.
When I've just spent weeks reading and taking notes and talking to a guy who's been researching an enormously ancient, what they call a black box.
Right. That's weird.
It's connected to alien technology.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all the
airplanes.
same. I mean,
it has something
there's
to do with
something about it. Yeah, I wonder though. I mean, yeah, why is it coming up now? It's probably something's about to happen, like you said. Like,
yeah. This
yeah.
is like, and it's like a perfect cube. Whatever.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
Perfect cube.
Right.
It's not
With no
distorted in any way.
seams, no
Yeah, no
seams.
seams. And it's
Yeah.
almost like metal, but it's not metal. I don't know what it
Exactly.
is. I have no idea
Right.
what this is.
I don't know what it is either. I mean, I saw it and I couldn't tell you. I mean,
I'm
it was
glad you
black
did.
though.
That just confirmed for me because
And it wasn't just
Yeah.
me. It was my husband saw it too. So if it was just me, I could be crazy, but he saw it as well.
Well, you know,
After that.
Deborah, you asked about the Ark of the Covenant. I was just thinking about it. You know who Graham Hancock is?
Yeah.
Graham Hancock. He does all this research about archaeology
Yeah.
and stuff. He went
anomalous.
to Ethiopia in search of the Ark of the Covenant. And
Yes.
it's supposed to be somewhere in some little church in the middle of nowhere there. But what the story is, it is actually was used as a weapon. They would carry it out at the head of the military when they went to war, and it let off rays, and you weren't supposed to get close to it, and you had to hide behind rocks, and
right.
all this weird stuff. And it was kept in the center of the temple in the Holy of Holies because it was dangerous.
Right.
It
It's almost like it had
supposedly-
radiation or
It
something.
had radiation.
Yeah.
There was there was
Yeah.
speculation it did, because the thing is, you know, the Ark of the Covenant, the story of the Ark of the Covenant is it created the manna to keep the Israelites
alive
in the desert. And some people speculate it is some kind of a nuclear reactor. That I know that was funny. You got
Your
funny.
antenna.
Pretty grinning. That's pretty funny. That
3D
that base-
braiding is pretty cool. I like her.
yeah, she's funny. Yeah. So, but yeah, that it was some kind of like a machine that could kind of maybe sort of like a food printing machine. I don't know. Kind of like now we have printers, but maybe it was like some kind of getting some kind of thing out of the.
It was an early microwave, and you have to be careful. You don't want to get too close to that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
Oh my god.
Oh, well,
I think people-
we're past our hour. It's
Yeah.
up to you guys if you want to keep talking. We're not going to do the slide until next time. So
Okay. Yeah, we could talk forever.
this
We
was fun. Well, I'm game to go more if you guys are. This was really fun.
I'm
love
gonna
Not
bug
like my
out
social
it.
life is pressing or
Where'd you get your gear at, Bob? I love that little hat thing.
I found them on Amazon.
Really?
The brand
Sounds
name
good too.
is Somic, Somic, and
Somic,
they come
huh.
in black.
Yeah,
pink,
oh, they have a
purple.
little microphone.
yeah, and
Oh,
she sounds
yeah.
good too. It sounds good,
Yeah,
actually.
And
It
these
sounds really
come
good.
off. These just
Those are
pop right
cute.
off.
I love that. It's really cute.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do too. I got 2 sets.
And it sounds good. It sounds good. Yeah.
I
Somic.
love my toys. See my Hello Kitty in the background?
Oh, I love Hello Kitty. I just saw a T-shirt. I was trying to get my daughter to. Hey, come on, Hello Kitty. You should wear that. I love Hello.
My son-in-law collects Hello Kitty.
This has been high strangeness of the highest kind for me.
Which-
This has been truly fascinating. This
Oh.
black box stuff. I'm waiting to see if I wake up seeing black boxes.
You might,
long as
Bo.
it's-
You never know.
No dolls. No dolls.
Last Saturday, we were
Yeah, that
talking
was-
about Annabelle.
Yeah, that's right.
Between Robert and Annabelle, she's like,
That's creepy. They're really
It was
creepy stories.
traumatic.
Yeah,
It was trauma.
it is
I
traumatic.
saw a picture of that dog. I would not read the articles that you were talking
No,
about. He's like, or watch the
uh-uh.
documentary. No, thank you.
oh,
Oh,
the
it's
Annabelle
creepy.
thing, it's just getting so stupid. It's just like, so that, the guy that when he was in college had a show called Paranormal State. I think I've seen like 1 or 2.
Oh
of
yeah,
those.
I saw that one time.
I can't remember his name.
I don't
Anyway,
know. Yeah.
the Warrens are dead now, and they have this museum.
Mhm.
Somebody agrees with you both.
No dolls. Oh,
No
God.
dolls.
Summertime.
Right on, summertime. No dolls.
So anyway, they have this museum with Annabelle and then all this other kind of stuff in there. So the place may be condemned and there's some zoning issues or whatever. So this guy and some other ones are going to like all these states, like with 3 haunted objects, including Annabelle, and they're making this most ridiculous thing on Annabelle. They're like, they have
You
a
know
priest
what?
and they're throwing holy
Oh my
water
God,
in
my
them. They said,
daughter was telling me this.
"Oh, it made
Yeah.
this mansion catch on fire."
Yeah,
and
that's
all
right.
that. It's
That's
so
what she told me. I'm like, really?
so
Why would she do that?
No dolls. No
Yeah, that's
dolls.
right. Yeah, that's what my daughter is like. Oh, Annabelle made a mansion catch on fire. I'm like, really? How did she do that?
So we went into that last Saturday because it's like,
Yeah.
this is just so stupid, you know. And I put this guy who was Creative Commons, kind of a skeptic, and he's going, "Well, she's that powerful. Why can't she be taking down governments and stuff?" you know?
That'd be awesome. Yeah, really. Put her in the White House, man. Just kidding.
Oh my God. Oh,
That would be
Ghost Bro.
crazy.
Somebody, yeah, let me put this up.
Was
Zach
it the Ghost Bro Zach something?
Zach.
I don't know.
I can't
I
remember.
could
I
probably-
can see him
I
as
could probably
clear as a
Google
bell,
it.
and it was Paranormal State.
Paranormal State.
I remember the show.
Normal. I remember the name. State.
And he had
Cast.
some problems like drinking and some other things. I don't remember what it.
Ugh, I can't get the overview.
Yeah, but if you were making your living following those haunted dolls around, you'd drink too.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you
know,
would.
when we get into the thing next week, and let's see who was Ryan Buell.
Ryan Buell. Yeah, Ryan Buell.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was 19 when he started that.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
now
crazy.
he's in his 40s, and you know,
Yeah,
and I guess
42.
it's to raise
Totally.
money for this thing. But
Hmm.
I personally think that unless you check your ego at the door,
Yeah.
you know, this is why some of the people that you were talking about, the early remote viewers and who are finding archaeological things now, it's not driven by ego or fame. But the minute you start bringing that in, I think it
Yes,
creates
corrupts
a
it.
form of madness. Yes. And then you keep delving into this high strangeness, weirdness, and then pretty soon people get, you know, they really start to have some problems because of it.
Oh, definitely.
That's my opinion. When the ego
absolutely.
clicks in, that's when it's problematic.
Absolutely. In fact, I think I've told Helen this a million times, but I don't know if I've told you this. But one of the guys I knew from years ago when I was studying this, you know, Western Hermetic kind of ceremonial magic, basically, and he died for 20 minutes, came back to life. He's that guy. He worked with this guy named Peter Herkos. I don't know if you've ever heard of. I never heard of Peter Herkos, but he was a famous psychic in the 40s. He was like,
yes, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Sandra Brown or somebody.
Yeah, he was like kind of like the Long Island medium of his time.
Yeah,
You know, he was super famous. He made tons of money, and he was like, he told me because I was working as a psychic. He goes, whatever you do, Denise, don't become greedy or, you know, egomaniacal, because he's like, Peter was really, really psychic and really good. And then he started charging people. He would be asked to help the police, and he charged them like crazy amounts of money to help solve cases. And he got really out of control, and he lost his gift. And I'm like, and he just got kind of nuts. I think Sylvia Brown would kind of be put under that category. Maybe she was psychic at one time, but she also seemed very kind of cuckoo by the end. You know?
Yeah, she faded out. She did weird out and start
She
getting caught in, you know, well, did you say this or did you say this?
Right.
You know, a whole bunch of that.
And those are people dealing with a tremendous. Remember Tori and Deb up here? That mess. You know, this is just a little bookstore, right?
Uh-huh.
But just because it's like a small area and people think it's like these experts in spirituality or whatever, their ego just goes crazy. And then they go nuts.
Yes,
you can't do that. You know, people are asking me really frequent. You know, people ask me all sorts of things like I should know something, and I tell people the more I study, the more I learn.
The less you know.
The less I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do not ask me.
I agree. I think we're all on that. You know, it's good to explore, and it's good to get verification, because you have no idea how much that helps, because with this black cube kind of thing, when you have something like constantly, and then somebody else, it's like otherwise it's
It
completely
really does help. Yeah, talking about this, because you find other people have weird pieces of information that you don't know.
Yeah.
And this stuff is so strange, and it's not really like in the public milieu, really. It's good to talk about something, because then other people are like, oh my God, then it puts pieces together that people didn't know were there.
Yeah.
It's validation. Yeah,
Deborah, there's
absolutely.
a great book if you're interested in the Ark of the Covenant. There's a great book by Graham Hancock called The Sign and the Seal. And it's all about his trip to Ethiopia and his talking to these little old men who one by one took care of it, were caretakers of it, and then died. They always end up dying, like, of leukemia type things.
Oh, wow. Cancer.
I read there was some blog posts about that. So I know what it is you're talking about. So I'll read that after my next 40 that I have lined up.
Exactly.
Including 800,000 pages.
Guess whose new book just arrived today, just to torture me. Take a wild guess. Whose new book? Stephen King.
Oh,
he's got another one? Really?
That'd be fun.
It's got a new one.
What is
It's
it
about
called?
dolls.
Don't ask me what it's
Is it really, Muff?
What is it called? Is it really? No.
It's called.
She's just making that up. She's making that up. She's being.
I was
she's being funny.
making it
She's
up.
making it come full circle. Doing a comedy
It
routine.
really did. It came
Yeah.
in the mail today.
What is it?
I'll
What
look
is
it up
it?
for you. I don't remember. I could be reading a book and not remember the name of the book I'm reading, because I pay zero attention to facts. But
That's not true.
No, I'm that way too, and I don't
read so many books. Hold on,
I don't remember the authors or the titles, but I remember
That
the
happens.
story. It's like
That
for
happens
me
to
when I read, it's like better than a movie. Even it's like you're like in there 3D, and you just
Then you can't remember the title. I know that
I'm
happens.
on the list here. I'm on the list here for a new book that's coming out in August, and I'm going to recommend that everybody pre-order it. It's called The Separation of Church and Hate by John Fugelsang, and it's absolutely
That's
it's
a
going to
good
be
title.
good. So where is my Stephen King book? Oh, you talk amongst yourselves. I'll find it.
You sound like that coffee.
Okay, Grandma.
What was it?
Here it is.
Mike Myers.
Never
What?
Flinch.
Never flinch.
And it looks like it's about 300 pages, maybe.
Okay. I like Stephen.
wait.
He's fun. He's fun.
Yeah,
He's a
I
good
love
fun read.
Really good.
Nice summer read. Yeah. Nice scary summer
Oh,
read.
yeah. Somewhere knew what it was too. Never
Never
flinch.
Never flinch. That's right.
Good.
Excellent.
Right.
Well, I think we've hit an hour and a half, so let's just we'll do
We're
our
good.
slide. We'll do our slide next week. And
Sounds
Something to
good.
look forward to.
in the meantime, I will see if I can find like the black box thing, Helen, or if you have a link or something you want to send me, please do. And I'll find the sphere and some of this other stuff and this writing that's on these objects.
Well, Paul Wallace made a documentary about it. It's on the Fifth Kind television on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the title of it, but it's one of his more recent, and it's all about his trip to Turkey.
Well,
But I
to
need
look-
to find stuff that's public domain. I don't steal anyone's stuff.
No.
So
That's
it's just
she's
my
very
policy.
right. That's
Right.
good. You guys, you could try to find out if you can ask him for permission to use
Oh
it.
yeah, I
Just-
could ask in all my spare time. So
yeah, right. You have so much of it. Your 5 minutes that you're sleeping. Get rid of that and just try to write an email.
oh
Yeah.
my
I
god.
could ask him. I'll ask him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if he's
ask
got
him.
an image, he
I
could
have his email. I'll ask him.
Yeah.
What do you want from him? You want
just
video
an
or-
image and the image of the box and maybe a close up of the lettering.
or
And
the-
then
he's
we're
more than welcome
going
to
to talk
come
about
tell
it
us.
on YouTube.
You can
And we'll
come tell
tell
us
him we'll
about it.
talk about his book too, so that he'll
Oh,
Yeah,
we'll always
yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
it.
We'll
Yeah.
plug his book.
Okay.
yeah. That's a good idea. He'll
Sweet.
probably say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll find that thing on that sphere because there's a newer like cable news, but they play on YouTube because we don't have cable out here, but they do replay, and it's called News Nation.
Oh yeah.
And they've got really interesting stuff about like the UFOs.
Yeah, they're
like
pretty
that.
open with the UFO stuff, even though.
And I think that they were talking about that sphere also. So I'll see.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Because it's kind of like this remarkable sort of, and it's kind of like that. Do you dare open that up? What kind of, but
Mexico?
what you said about the Michigan and the Great Lakes.
Yes.
I think that a lot of these are, and it's like showing up everywhere, all these ancient like things that are underwater or whatever. And I think it's like some kind of technology coming up.
It is, I'm sure. Yeah.
That's my speculation.
The sphere was Mexico?
I think South America or Mexico. I don't know. I have to look it up. I don't remember.
Well, it's okay. I can look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this was fun tonight. Thank you for the laughter.
It was fun. It was really fun. Yeah, always.
And I want to thank everybody who was here in the chat and participating in the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for coming. And we hope you can go. And hopefully I'll have the phone thing working next week so y'all can call in.
That'd be great. Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
It's just that the reason I haven't had it on the last couple because the wind and so it just seems to affect our lines.
Yeah.
Out here. I don't know what it is.
Every time we talk, we have a windstorm. I just realized that. We have a windstorm.
It's my hot air.
It's all of our hot air. There's a butterfly effect here. Yeah.
Hot air is better than shit.
It's not true. Yeah.
It's like that tornado in Oz,
Yeah, right.
All right, y'all. This was really fun. So thank you again, and we will talk soon.
Love you
Thanks,
guys.
ladies.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.